Go ahead, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you, Madam Secretary. And interrupt me anytime that we have fully reached the quorum stage. Good afternoon to all of you all. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today. I apologize for not being with you all last meeting. I will assure you that I was not doing something that was so enjoyable that I could not be with you all. So I decided to divulge medical information. I was undergoing a colonoscopy, so I would have rather have been with you all than to be where I was. But everything checked out good. I'm going to live to be 118. So I don't know if that's good news or bad news, but I'm glad to be here. Um, I want to welcome everyone, and we can still do self introductions for those participants who are viewing us, but we won't conduct any business until I've been alerted that we have a quorum present. I'll start with myself. My name is Alona Holmes. I'm a retired circuit judge in Broward County, and I have the honor of chairing this CAB.
Marsha Ellison, President, NAACP, Fort Lauderdale, Broward, and I currently serve as secretary for this CAB.
Colonel David Holmes, Executive Director for the Department of Law Enforcement, the Broward County Sheriff's Office.
Assistant Chief.
Carlos Pabolo, Circuit Court Judge. I'm in the Delinquency Division.
Assistant Chief Victor London.
Try it again, Chief, Assistant Chief London. I thought that was a picture at first, and then you started breathing.
I'm moving. Assistant Chief London with the Fort Lauderdale Police Department, Victor London.
Okay.
Gloria Marcella, Assistant State Attorney in charge of the Youth Justice Unit for the State Attorney's Office. Thank you.
Roosevelt Walters, Justice Servant.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. We'll skip over those things that need a vote, and I'll come back to it as soon as I'm alerted that we have a quorum. I will note that Mr. Weeks has been excused, and yes, Mr. Weeks and I have appeared at the same time on this CAB at one time or other. But he's the vice chair, so he covers when I can't, and I'm here today. So he has been excused, but if he does pop on, it'll be an honor to greet him. Reminder of the norms. We say it, but nobody's cell phone goes off except mine, but I'll just say it anyway. Please mute your cell phones or turn them off. Raise your hands to be recognized, or get my attention in some way or other so that I can recognize. Everybody has a valuable voice on this CAB. Also, I'm going to ask that if you're not presenting, to limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. And that's only if you're not doing a presentation. Please respect the opinions and viewpoints of all involved, and address all the board members respectfully. Michael Bell's not on yet, is he? I had something to say about the Dallas Cowboys, so I'll be respectful of him. Somebody posted that the only ring that the Dallas Cowboys would see was the ring of the eclipse as it was over the city. I wanted to make sure he got a copy of that, so I'll be respectful of him today. Want to do my chair's report. Again, it's been, I think, 2 years, Madam Secretary. Has it been 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
That I've had the pleasure of serving as the chair of this CAB. I will tell you all in advance, when I was a circuit or county judge, the only time I ever dealt with the juvenile division were in 2 instances. If a judge called in sick, Bobby Collins, Judge Zywick, I'd go in and cover their dockets. So I never was assigned to the juvenile delinquency or dependency divisions in the court, but I learned a lot by covering for other judges. And so my interest was piqued when I was approached by then chair of this CAB, President Marsha Ellison of the NAACP when she asked if I would like to be a member, had me fill out an application like I was getting a job. I had to remind her I'm retired, but filled it out, and I have been serving as a member and as chair. I learned a lot about the juvenile division. I learned a lot about the laws affecting juveniles, and it has really piqued an interest in me to make sure that our children get a fair shake. A lot of people campaign saying that, you know, it's for the children. We sing songs about what about the children, but not everybody is about the children. And so it's been an honor to be here with like-minded people. Some people, you know, went along first blush. Some people had to be persuaded, gentle prods. But we've achieved a lot on this board. And, you know, I am very honored to have served with you all. But as you all know, that there's been some legislation and you all discussed it the last meeting, and that was House Bill 1425 that changes the makeup of the CAB membership. And come July 1, Mr. Bush, in his capacity as Chief Probation Officer, will be the chair of this CAB. To that end, I've been approached to continue work with the juveniles in our county through the NAACP. Many of you know I am a life member of the NAACP, and things I could not do when I was on the bench, I'm now free as a member of the Florida Bar and just a plain old schmo citizen in Broward to do things that I think are important for our children. So therefore, today would be my last CAB meeting, both as a member and as well as the chair, so that I can begin to embark on those opportunities that I've been offered by the NAACP. They're paying me a lot more than you all are paying me. Y'all are paying me $0. The NAACP is going to pay me $1 million to do the work that I've been doing, and I look forward to it. I've got some ideas that, you know, this CAB probably cannot go forward on, but as a community member, a member of the NAACP, I plan to forge ahead. I think they're going to name a hurricane after me because I have a short time to get things done that I want to get done. And the reason I say short time is I am retired. And I'm still working after all of these years of retirement of 5 years. But I am not going to stop until I have accomplished that which we have talked about with the NAACP. And I again thank President Marsha Ellison, who was the chair of this body when I came on as the chair, as a member and then the chair. And I learned a lot from her. And so I want to publicly say thank you to you, Madam Marsha Ellison, our president, and our secretary of this CAB, for affording me the opportunity. I think I gave you the same excuse when you said I want you to join. I said I never worked with the juveniles. The only other opportunity I had with the juveniles was when I sentenced them under Florida Statute 985 as a circuit judge, or 95408 as a youthful offender. So I've learned a lot. I've been in the community. My ear is to the ground, and I think I can achieve, with the help of the NAACP and the community at large in Broward, a lot of things that I could not have done through this CAB. So this will be my last meeting. The secretary, Dr. Hall, has not received my letter of resignation because y'all got computer problems. so I didn't want to use snail mail because I haven't bought a stamp in years. So I'll kind of wait until your computers can assure me that he has gotten my letter. But an oral resignation is as good as one in writing, but I will put it in writing since he had my application to join as well as to become chair of this CAB. So after this meeting, I'm done, but I'm going to ask you all please to to continue the work as best you can. Statutes have changed a lot, putting our children behind the 8 ball, especially Black and brown children. And that's one of the reasons why I was really gung-ho to get involved with this CAB. But things are changing. And you know what? When I was growing up, we didn't have a Tallahassee. I grew up in Philadelphia. The capital was Harrisburg. My parents didn't look to Harrisburg. Our help didn't come from them. Our help came from our community. And so I'm going to be in the community with the NAACP, helping our children. And on that end, that concludes my last chair report for this CAB. Let's go on to the Alternative Prevention Work Group.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Walters, I'm sorry, yes.
Before you move on, you have done an exemplary job as chair, and I'm asking you to at least allow those who wish to say thank you an opportunity to say thank you. Now, I'm not trying to run your agenda, but I know that I want to say thank you for your service, and I'd like to go even further and include in that thank you and appreciation to say something to our committee's secretary who I don't know how many years ago reached out and said, come on. And I did, and that time she wasn't the chair, she was a regular member. But the two of you, I believe, have kept us on point to what we need to be doing and should be doing if we are going to help our community in any capacity. And I'm glad to know that if you're not going to be a part of this committee, at least you will be still performing a good deed to our committee from other resources. And I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Walters. Anybody else? I didn't do this for, accolades or anything. I do things because my heart is in it. So thank you for recognizing myself as well as President Ellison. Anybody else? Yes, yes, Colonel Holt. And I want to let me give y'all a disclaimer. Even though I tell people, especially officers that stop me, no, I'm teasing. But I tell people that Dave Holmes is my cousin. I started that many years ago, over 20 years ago. That Dave Holmes is my cousin, and he got all those promotions and accolades because they think he's my cousin.
Well, that's how I got promoted, because I'm your cousin.
But we're not related by blood, but we're related with that last name.
You better believe it. Madam Chair, words can't express how much I appreciate being on the board with you. I've learned so much from you and Madam Chair Ellison. You guys, one thing I can say, you walk the walk. You don't just talk the talk, you walk the walk. And that goes a long ways and having an impact on the community. And I've always been one of those. That's the reason why I got into this profession, was to give back to the community. And I watch and I listen to what you guys do each and every day, and it humbles me. And I learn a lot, and I try to share with others and bring others behind me along so we can improve the community. Our kids have a lot to learn, but you've set the bar high. You've led by an example, both of you, and I appreciate you so much. And I'm only a phone call away, and when you need something, consider it done. You know how that is. All right, and I just want to thank you, and on behalf of the sheriff's office and all of our employees, aside from myself, you know how I feel personally. But we at the sheriff's office, we appreciate you too, and know that you're only a phone call away. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, we're gonna close the mic now. We're like at church. All hearts and minds are clear.
I'd like to just echo what the Colonel and everybody else, the sentiments here. This has been a very, very powerful tool for accountability for the agencies that want to be part of the community and improve things. And I thank you for leading it. And I look forward to continuing to participate as I can. And I'm glad that you're going to be still available in the community.
All right. Everybody that spoke, they wonder, all hearts and minds are clear. All right. I'm going to pronounce the benediction.
Don't do benediction just yet. I'm sorry I can't be on camera in the middle of something. But I do want to say thank you to your leadership and thank you to Miss Ellison leadership as well. You know, I always say not everybody feel comfortable passing on the torch. And you all made it so easy for everyone else to adjust, and that speaks to healthy leadership. I just want to thank you all for being a part of this, and it's not always easy sitting in those seats. There's a lot of battles that you all fought. There's a lot of battles that you all will continue to fight, and I think in terms of fighting the battle together, that will always happen for the betterment of our children across Broward County. So thank you all. Thank you both for the service you all have provided to our community and what you all will continue to do. And go Cowboys.
Did you see the ring? The Lord provided y'all a ring on Monday.
It
was an eclipse that only lasted 3 minutes and 13 seconds, but you had your ring.
You know what? I can't win. I can't win.
Like,
let me just say, it was, you know, it certainly has been amazing working with you. I know we have a lot of things on the table. I thank you for your continued commitment. We're just moving from one, you know, side of the coin until the other. And so the work continues, but I thank you for stepping up. Mr. Bush, I will send you over the spreadsheet with the emails. So you will have that. And you know, whatever else that you need from me, just let me know. But you know, this will be my last meeting as well. But you know how to find me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And you too, Ms. Holmes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. All right. Mr. Walters, we did okay on that one?
Madam Chair, I remember back on the day when Judge Williams and I on the same day said pretty much what the two of you have said. And the first thing I got from you was, you can't quit. And everybody think that I should keep going while they quit. And you only been retired for 5 years, and I've been retired for 18 years. And they still, my wife said I didn't quit work. I quit getting paid to work. And I just want to say thank you to all of you guys, because I learned a lot, as the chair spoke, from all of you. All of you have changed my life in a better direction than it were when I first joined this committee. And I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, since Mr. Walters is a Diamond Life member of the NAACP, past president of the NAACP, and some say once you're president, you never stop being president. He has a seat. I've already completed his application for the NAACP's task force. So he just doesn't know it quite yet, you know, but
he hasn't been voluntold yet. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
So this is nothing more than turning the page on this part. That's all. Mm-hmm.
Madam Chair, let me say, if I may.
Judge Rabolo.
I was saddened when you left the 4th floor here of the North Wing. I didn't think you were going to do it, but you did. And I was really happy to see you back on here. When I started on this cab about, 2 years ago or so. And it's been, as it was, having you on the 4th floor, very enjoyable, entertaining, and you've always, I've always looked up to you. You've always been a mentor, and I appreciate that. Miss Ellison, I don't know you as well, but thank you for serving. I didn't realize that I was coming on here today to be thanking folks for leaving this board. I was ready to go with this board for a long time. I've discussed this with Judge Williams, so somebody might be taking my position sooner or later.
You're irreplaceable, Judge Rabolo.
No, a circuit court judge who shall remain nameless once said well, this was in my other life when I was a prosecutor, an assistant state attorney here in Broward County. She, not to me, but to someone else, she said that we were widgets. So we're very replaceable, Judge. I feel very replaceable.
I
Miss
like
Ellison.
that. Y'all were widgets. I had never called a prosecutor a widget. Miss Mashala, have you
Oh,
ever
no.
been called a widget?
Miss Ellison, thank you for your long leadership in this cab.
Thank you, Judge. I appreciate that.
I would like to say that the work that this cab has done, people say, well, what do we do? We get on there, she's pushing us around a little bit. But I think we are now, the 17th Circuit was, if not the first, we were the second circuit to have the chief judge issue an administrative order encompassing the civil citation program, as it were, back then, under 985-12, which is a major accomplishment that Judge Tudor signed on to something that, the preamble and the legislation says, the legislature encourages but does not mandate that counties, municipalities, and public or private educational institutions participate in a civil citation program. So because the legislature didn't mandate it, Judge Tudor felt that it was necessary and important enough to include it in the 17th Judicial Circuit. So, Judge Rabolo, if you see him, just tell him that Judge Holmes was talking about him and saying good things about him. He won't believe it was the good things, but I tell Jack I do say good things about him. I really do. He's a good chief judge, and thank him for signing on to these juvenile initiatives, because that was real important. And I think it got another county to sign on once they knew that Broward had signed on. So thank him. And I'll get my thank you cards out eventually and start thanking people. Do we now have a quorum?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we got a quorum. At this time, did everybody speak that wanted to speak? It's like being at a wedding. Speak now or forever hold your peace or your thanks. We thank you for getting on every week. I appreciate that. All right. No. Okay, somebody open the mic. Okay. Madam Secretary, if you'll let me know if somebody has signed on to say something. I don't want to cut anybody off that wants to be heard.
Okay.
All right. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of today's agenda. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
move approval of today's agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. It's been moved by Secretary Ellison and seconded by Mr. Walters. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Raise your
Aye.
hand. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the agenda will proceed as we have approved as written. At this time, I'll also entertain a motion for approval of the March 13th minutes, which are electronically recorded, and they now appear on the website of the Fort Lauderdale Broward NAACP's subscription channel. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes?
Madam Chair, move approval of the March 13, 2024 minutes via the video.
Second.
All right, I got 2 seconds. I'll take it. I heard Mr. Walters. Somebody else said second too. Who was that?
Mr. Obel.
Okay, Ms. Obel, thank you. I'll take 2 seconds from y'all. That's all the Cowboys needed to lose that game. 2 seconds. All right. At the, any questions, any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the March 13th of 2024 amendments that were electronically recorded, please raise your hand by indicated aye. Or
Aye.
say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposition? Hearing none, those minutes have been approved. I've given the chair's report. Now I'd like to hear from Colonel Holmes and Mr. Obel as to how that pilot program in Deerfield is going. Assistant Chief London, rest assured, you're going to see me. I'm going to put on a nice blue business suit, and I'm going to come see you at the Taj Mahal, because I think you all should. There's a model to follow, and I'd like to see some alternatives, and especially in light of the cyber breach in the JJIS computer. That's one of the reasons why we don't want our children's information in those computers when they've done no crime and no offense against the law. So, Mr. Obel, Colonel Holmes, all yours. The floor is yours.
Madam Chair, thank you. As of right now, everything has just been moving as originally according to plan. We're still in engagement with the office of the Deerfield team there in Deerfield, with PSO team there at Deerfield. We have not received any referrals for this month, but we are still engaged in contact and still planning community events together to bring more awareness. That's all I have in mind.
Colonel Holmes.
Yes, Madam Chair. Last week I met with Captain Hofstein and Lieutenant Cade up in Deerfield Beach, and I reminded them the importance of engaging with their organization and making sure that we have everything in place for future events. And I reiterated to them that school is almost over. So it's going to be important for us to get ahead of that and to make sure that all our resources are available for them. And we're supposed to be teaming up with them for several, summer programs, pre-summer programs, and make sure that all the resources from the sheriff's office are available. So they said they're going to be on top of things, and they've been reaching out to the people within the organization. So we should be good to go. And if anything you need, Mr. Obel, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, and we'll get things done as soon as possible. Okay?
No problem, sir.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Obel or Colonel Holmes? Right. Hearing nothing, we'll move on to the School Disciplinary Committee report. Secretary Ellison.
Yes, Madam Chair. I have not made the last meeting. I do now have some time. I have been talking to staff and the superintendent about a number of issues with the district, and we will begin certainly with the data since Promise has officially gone away. I know that people say, well, school board members that were against it say that the resources are still there. In theory, that's true. But the reason that Promise sat in the disciplinary matrix, because it was not optional whether you could offer qualifying children those resources. That's the difference between it being in the matrix and in policy and not. So the practice, I will wait for the data, but based on what I've heard from within those schools, that the practice, the pre-Promise practice is alive and well, and along with the school to prison pipeline. I think that when we look at the numbers, that it will bear itself out. I know that there are some SROs that are not SO who are from other departments who asked the superintendent at one of the chiefs meetings, so you're not bringing Promise back, right? They're not interested in doing that at all. Someone who has no idea what Promise was originally, and so they are excited about it not being there. And so I will get those numbers and we'll review and then go on from there. But there are this district has had its hands full with everything that's going on. And so we'll work directly, not on obviously under the CAB, but under the auspice of the NACP to look at the school-based arrests, to drill down and see who has those individuals. Is it to a specific school, department, teacher? One of the things the district does very well is track these things. Now, whether they give you the information is a different kind of thing. But I think we will be able to get that, and we will work toward making sure that all of the children are treated fairly when it comes to discipline within our schools. They are working toward duplicating what's happening out at the Promise site, being that Dr. Brown worked years to get that process to bring in clinicians in order to deal with the issues. And it's seems to be headed back to where it was, where we're just housing children. They're pulled out of the classroom. Their homework does not go to the new Promise site what they're working on. It'll only be busy work. And then should they return to the classroom, they're now 10 days behind or whatever, and with no opportunity to really catch up. So I'm still very much concerned regarding what's happening. We have, for those of us who've been doing this for a long time, Mr. Walters, Ella, and others, we have returned to the bad old days when it comes to dealing with our children. And that is my report, Madam Chair.
Any questions of Secretary Ellison? All right, no hands. It seems like every month the report deteriorates in terms of not the quality and presentation of the report, but just hearing, I understand that there needs to be discipline. But I think those of you all that grew up like I did, the corporal punishment was the way to go. The strap, the belt, the shoe, the spoon, the ladle, whatever was handy. And now it's like the Dr. Spock, let's talk it out and everything like that. So discipline has changed over time, but I think now we have gone back to let's discipline. There were days that I remember from elementary school, the paddle. The teacher had the paddle. When you walk in the room, the first thing you see hanging on the wall where you march in line was the paddle hanging on the wall. And just sometimes just seeing it, kept you in line. But, we have a different breed of children. They're exposed to a lot more things than we were exposed to. And so I think sometimes you just got to kind of stop and say, look, that worked for us. I used to tease my mother. Matter of fact, at my first investiture as a county court judge, I thanked my mother for beating me with the strap. And somebody looked at me and said, "What are you doing?" Well, it kept me out of jail, kept me from, going, astray. It kept me in straight order. But that's a different, and I was being facetious in thanking her for that. And I did mention that the statute of limitations had run for her to be prosecuted for the abuse I received. So, I think this matrix may have to be looked at, for lack of a better term. Just discipline. Beat. That's not working. And I see that in this country as opposed to other countries that I've been watching on television and how they've stopped certain things from happening. We really got to do some forward thinking when it comes to our children these days. We can't think in the box. We can't even think about the box. So I'm excited that I'm going to get some new and novel opportunities in my next life to do and to promulgate some things to help our children. They're not all bad. There's a lot of underlying things about them, but when you have, you know, people in office that, you know, haven't raised children, don't, you know, and they're not around their grandchildren or their great grandchildren. They just want the old days and how things go, and that's in the box. So hopefully this board will come up with things. I know I'm going to be thinking some things in the future, and I've already got some plans in mind for the future. All right, let's go to the report from the data work group. Do we have Mr. James on? Is Mr. James or
He's
Miss?
not, unfortunately, he got called down to Miami, so
Right,
he said he'll get on if need be, but he really couldn't talk. So I wanted to let you know that, yeah.
All right, thank you, Miss Phillips. Is Mr. James in the
He's not
participant?
on. Miss Gaynor, I've been
Oh, is
trying
Miss
to get
Gaynor?
her on.
Yes. Hey, Miss Gaynor, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How you
Good
doing?
afternoon, all. I'm doing great. I hope everyone else is as well.
Doing great.
There is no report from the data group, and there are very few reports for the meeting today in general.
Okay. All right. Is the data group still getting data at least?
We are not getting data, and at this moment, we're not sure how long it will take us to get data. I got on a little late, but I don't know if this committee is aware that currently there is no data in general available from the Department of Juvenile Justice.
Yeah, I think we kind of tongue in cheek talked about that at the beginning. They're having some problems. Mr. Bush, did you state that you didn't know when things would return back to some semblance of order?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I have no clue. I know our IT is working around the clock to try to resolve the issue, but there has not been a definite date or hour or anything when it's going to be back up and running.
All right, well, that affects us all. All right, Ms. Gaynor, anything else?
Whenever it's the board's will, I do have a report from civil citation, because we do also manage our own database. So I do have a civil citation report, although it's not complete in its entirety because we weren't able to check recidivism for March.
All right, and were you able to complete missed opportunities along with the civil citation?
No, that information comes directly from JJIS and from the Department of Juvenile Justice.
Okay. All right. In as much as there's no report from the data work group, so Mr. Bush and Mr. Weeks will sort of, you know, prod along, and maybe next month, I will try to, you know, observe as a participant as many of your meetings. But Mr. Bush, there's no rule or law that says that you have to have your meetings on you know, the second Wednesday from 3 to 5. Those were just dates that just worked for everybody since they've carved that time out. But as the chair, you can, you know, with the board's consent, you can do whatever you feel is within your convenience and any opportunities that you have. Let's go to civil citations. Let's hear. I was really, I had to watch the CAB meeting twice. Coconut Creek 8, Coral Springs 3, one from Davie, one from Fort Lauderdale that I've been assured was a mistake. It was, and they want a recount, and they want everything, and a letter of apology, and then Sunrise. Those numbers were unsettling with me, but take it away, Ms. Gaynor.
What I do have for the civil citation report is that there were 85 youth referred in March. That's the largest number in any month I think since maybe 2016. So that's something to be mindful of as we look at the increase of missed opportunities and referrals that may be coming from Broward schools. I think the last report, half or a little more than half was from the school. So that's something to consider. But 85 new referrals for civil citation, 23 youth were discharged from the program in March, and the success rate was 87%.
What's the highest success rate that's been recorded?
The highest success rate is probably around 91, 92.
Okay.
And just so that you're aware, it's 87 for a month, but typically we look at that on an annual basis because it fluctuates throughout the year depending on how many came in and how many were discharged.
Of those 85 referrals, can you give me demographics of, male, female, white, black, or other?
Yes. In March, there were 21 female who were referred and 64 male. 45 were black, 7 were white, 32 Hispanic, and 1 was labeled as other.
Ms. Gaynor, if I may, Madam Chair.
You may, certainly.
Can you tell us a little bit about the school-based referrals?
You mean for the report that I'm giving now?
Right.
I cannot, because that information we would get directly from the missed opportunity reports, and being that we don't have that information, I don't have it to give to you.
Mr. Bush, do you have any of that information in your database? I know you said you had some information over at the, I guess at the JAC or wherever your system was.
No, ma'am, not in reference to missed opportunities. All of that is tied into all of our systems, our Tableau and everything. So all of that system is down.
What about referrals that were offered that you were able to serve the kids? Like what were they for? What were the infractions? That sort of thing.
I don't quite understand what the question is.
I don't know that. So I don't think that you're, maybe I heard you wrong. You weren't saying that all of those school-based were missed opportunities, were you? You were just saying that you received the civil citations, correct?
So in the report I'm giving, these are for the civil citations. For the school-based offenses, that comment was in relation to the missed opportunity reports that we've seen coming in over the last couple of months. We just don't have the March numbers.
So could we, and perhaps not today, but get a breakdown at some point of what those school-based referrals, like where are they coming from? Are they from a particular school? What they were for those type things.
Right. So I can definitely get you that information for the ones that we already have. But after the last missed opportunity report that we provided, we would have to wait until JJIS is back up, because that information comes from the missed opportunity report, which comes from JJIS.
Thank you.
And if I
any other questions?
And if I can, Madam Chair, I think I understand what Ms. Ellison was referring to in reference to the JAC. Those are just those youth who the officers call to see if they are eligible for civil citation. We don't actually have a database they're calling, and we're just checking CCIS to see if they have any outstanding charges or anything like that, to see if they qualify. That's the only way that we can be able to inform the officers of their status.
And if I may, Madam Chair, Mr. Bush, so I know you said you were able to develop a process until we could figure out what's going on with JJIS. Was there an email or a direction that sent out to law enforcement to say, you're not going to, perhaps you can't JJIS is down. However, please call the JAC, which is I think what they used to do back in the day, that all departments will at least have or know that you have that they have that option to do so, because I know that there's at least one department that just has no clue about anything on civil citation. So did something come out from your office or from somewhere to the different police departments?
That's always been the process. Even before all this happened, the officers were to contact the JAC. They would review a face sheet, the JPO screener would review a face sheet to give them that information. It's still the same process. We just can't review the face sheets. We're just going into a CCIS system just to verify if they have charges. So the process remained the same as far as with the officers. So there was no need to send out an email because that's what they normally do, is contact the JAC. So, but we were just going through a different avenue of finding out the youth's status.
So the departments that has no clue, who then should they reach out to regarding civil citation?
For police departments who have no clue,
Correct.
they still reach out to the JAC.
So do they? I think they would probably start maybe with the state attorney's office, because I mean, when I say no clue, I mean like for real, no clue. And I had asked the then chief, now former chief, to reach out to the state attorney's office before. Last time I talked to her, she did not. And now she is almost officially no longer, and the department still, I mean, has no clue so, okay, maybe that's a thing for the state attorney's office. Thank you, sir.
All right, any other questions of Ms. Gaynor and the report on civil citations?
Madam Chair.
You may.
If I can add something, I just want to get out in front of this. I know there were some issues with the system, and not everything was recorded or came across Ms. Gaynor's desk. I received an email from our staff that it may show up later that BSO had one missed opportunity for March. However, I received details in reference to that. And it involved a situation where we were doing surveillance and on a vehicle that was doing multiple burglaries. And when we went to stop the vehicle, they jumped out after firing several rounds at a house. So it involved a gun. And one of the kids that we took into custody, we charged him with resisting without violence. He was with the group. He wasn't observed firing the weapon. However, we couldn't just issue him a civil citation because it involved a firearm and someone's house being shot up. So that came out as a missed opportunity, but for our protocol, it wasn't a missed opportunity. So I just wanted to get out in front of that, to say that we had one on paper, but it really wasn't one due to the circumstances.
Look at you jumping ahead. We don't even have that missed opportunity report.
Ready.
But you getting it out because you know I won't be in.
I just want to know.
He went up to our homes to do prospective damage control.
Getting out in front of it, you know.
All right. Well, since we on this report, Assistant Chief London, you know, Fort Lauderdale normally doesn't miss a beat. And there you were on the top of the list last month.
No, we were not. For the record, it was an error. Chief Bush can attest to that.
So what was the mistake?
It was a Coconut Creek SRO who made the arrest, and they accredited it to Fort Lauderdale in one of the accounting columns.
They had, okay, Creek had 8 already. I guess they said we can't go to 9, otherwise homes would probably be all over us.
Apparently.
So they assigned one to Fort Lauderdale since you had none.
Correct.
Shame on them. Shame on them. Shame on them.
You know, that reeks of identity theft. Ms. Michelle, I think he may want to file a police report.
I think Ms. Gaynor had her hand up a little bit ago.
Yes, Ms. Gaynor, yes.
No, I just also wanted to let the body know that we've put a process in place to continue tracking the civil citation referrals. So they're being processed as normal. They're just not going directly into JJIS. We also have our own database, which we're required to put it in as well. So we're keeping track of that. We're still processing all of the referrals and doing the intakes for the families within the time frame that's required.
And that's excellent. And Broward is one of the few counties that has its own civil citation program. because the statute does say that the state attorney's office comes up with a program. So I think the state has a program and the county has one also. Am I correct, Ms. Mashala? What does your office have in place?
We just have we have the diversion program, but the civil citation, we acquiesce to the county on that. Yep.
Okay,
That's
excellent.
correct, Judge.
And
Excellent.
Madam Chair, working with this body also, which our then County Commissioner, Lois Wexler, worked very hard to get monies in place. So not only did the county step up as far as the rhetoric, they also realized the importance of having a funded, staffed civil citation program. And hopefully that remains a priority for the county as well. And so then that is something that is also an oddity when it comes down to putting their money where their mouth is for civil citations. So we're certainly proud about that as well.
Well, you know, not being a member of this CAB will free me up to be a citizen in the community that can advocate a lot more for the county to continue its funding of a very, very worthwhile program, especially with the high percentage of completions. However, there's going to be some changes. So if no one has any further questions of Ms. Gaynor, thank you as always. I've relied upon you. I put that master's degree to work for this CAB. So, so thank you so very much for
Absolutely.
your expertise in helping us during my tenure as well as the tenure of Secretary Ellison. Any questions of Ms. Gaynor? All right, no hands up, nothing. So let's move on to a legislative update. You all talked a lot about 1425, and I have nothing else to say about 1425. I don't always agree with legislation. I disagree with the changes made in 1425, but I'm not an elected person in Tallahassee for 60 days every year to go up and do important work as fast as they do it without forethought. I'll say that and limit my comments to that. However, there is another bill that affects our children, and that is Senate Bill 1274. It wasn't mentioned at last CAB meeting, but it is going to be effective July 1. Now, that legislation deals with a whole lot. It affects a number of statutes. I hate when we left single subject legislation, but the Juvenile Justice Bill 1274 deals with the revising penalties for specified firearm violations. So children that have commit crimes with firearms, you're going to see certain things happen. What I call some minimum mandatory time of incarceration or detention, as they say in the juvenile division. But like for a first offense, the court can put somebody in for up to 5 days. Also, I think the main thing is that Senate bill amends Florida Statute 985.12, dealing with civil citations. Come July 1, civil citations, and Ms. Gaynor, this may be the reason why you got 85 referrals, because come July 1, they're not going to be civil citations anymore. They're going to be pre-arrest delinquency citations. And, you say, well, that it's still pre-arrest. I think the important thing is that they've added the word delinquency, and that raises a lot of concern, because I think in scoring points and doing those recommendations, whether or not to go into secure detention or detention, whenever you see that word delinquency, did the child commit a delinquent act? That's going to be taken into account. The kids are going to be scoring higher. And so that's going to be the incentive for judges to just hold them in secure detention. And I don't care that the bill that 1425 says, well, we're going to change the name of it, and it's not non-secure detention, things of that nature. Holding is holding. Detention is detention. That means you're not free to leave. We understand that, the legalities of that. So you all take a look at Senate Bill 1274. There are some requirements for the pre-arrest delinquency citations that will be entered. Some of the highlights that I found in reading the bill last night is that things that happened prior to July 1st, whether you called it a civil citation or not, it still gets reported under the batch of delinquency. So it's all going to be delinquency citations. There used to be cutoff dates, but it just says, for instance, I'm trying to find the language that here it is. A civil citation or similar pre-arrest diversion program existing before July 1, 2024 shall be deemed a delinquency citation program. So it gets grandfathered in. It's going to be called, whether or not we eventually the juvenile justice system is going to change. It's going to be like the adult system. You won't have respondents and petitioners. You're going to have defendants and state. And the whole point of having a juvenile type system was to keep it separate from the adults. And I understand that. But there are children in the adult system, but there are mechanisms to get them there, direct files, waivers and things of that nature. But that's why circuit judges are still afforded juvenile sanctions in certain circumstances that they feel it is necessary under either Florida Statute 985, which allows for just total sanctions and holding a child until they're 21 under some type of supervision of the department, or 95408. Judge Robola, has that been amended yet, or is it still 4 and 2?
No, it has not been amended, as far as I know.
You know what? I was an advocate to give judges access to 10 years under that statute to make it a maximum of some like 7 and 3. And I'm still going to be a proponent of that, because a lot of judges feel compelled not to use the 4 and 2. They don't think 6 years is enough. But so y'all will see me coming. I'm an advocate now for certain changes in the juvenile system. I think if you give a judge, 10 years to work with the child, I think that child can change. But we're so apt to say delinquency now, and words are important. It's not just semantics. To me, words are important. So that's what I pull from that. You all can read it. Don't take my word for it. It's not like being in church and getting the bulletin. Don't take my word for it because I'm sitting next to you. Read it for yourself and figure out why they changed it from civil citation to delinquency citations, which will come into effect on July 1.
Madam Chair?
Yes, I'm listening.
I'm not a English major by any stretch of the imagination, but when you're talking about the language, the first problem I have with that particular bill is its name. When you say pre, that means before. And when you say pre-arrest, then I'm assuming that later there's going to be an arrest. And that's not the case most of the time. And so when you are there advocate for a proper name.
Well, you know what, Mr. Walters, I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, I just only pointed out some of the highlights because I didn't want to take up all the time. But I will refer you back to that same Senate bill that says in Part D, as in David, if a juvenile does not successfully complete the pre-arrest delinquency citation program, the arresting law enforcement officer shall determine if there is good cause to arrest the juvenile for the original misdemeanor offense and refer the case to the state attorney to determine if prosecution is appropriate or allow the juvenile to continue in the program. So, yes.
That's very good. Now, we are talking about a juvenile who did not successfully complete the program. Then the pre become proper. But what about the juveniles that complete the program? What happened to the pre?
Well, if they complete the program, here we go. They're still going to be reported. They have to report no matter what to JJIS and put that in there. But the data goes up. The child, what we give them a certificate, Miss Gaynor? What do we do when they successfully complete?
They get a letter.
That's all. No certificate.
They do not get a certificate.
Oh
and
man.
An opportunity to get the record expunged and all that good stuff.
Well, the statute does make comment about the expungement of it. I don't know how that's going to be. I think what it's going to do is give the state attorney's office a little bit more leeway if they so desire. It gives them the discretion, so to speak, to object to an expungement if they feel that the child, has not merited successful completion, but they completed it anyway. But I don't know how that's going to work. I have to wait and see. And every statute gets its day in court. Okay, so the judges are going to have to see it as it's codified once it's written into the statutes, and then the judge makes a ruling, and that ruling can be appealed. And then we see what the appellate courts think about the language in this bill that's been passed by the legislature. I just don't like the name of it. You put delinquency in anything at the beginning, that assumes certain things. That's my take on it. And those of you who are still working and getting your check for being actively on that job, don't say anything. Okay, I'm getting my pension, and unless I commit a felony, I'm good. So I take umbrage with the language of the statute. Pre-arrest delinquency. How do you become pre-delinquent? Really? I'll stop. Judge Vogel, stop looking at me. I'm not looking at you. I hereby adjudicate you pre-delinquent. All right, don't say anything. Y'all got to get your checks. I understand. All right. Any follow-up? Anybody have questions about 1274?
Well, we had the same concerns, Judge. And one of the points that were made by legislators that who really care about people and children was nobody wants a kid to go to school, use a gun, take a gun, any of those things. But there have been a number of cases here in Broward County where a kid took a gun to school. They didn't know they had taken it. Somebody's, stepdad or boyfriend or whatever had used their backpack in their, business. And we know that there's in several cases, particularly in our neighborhood, Judge, where the kid took the gun to school, and the parent called up and said, "I'm gonna come and get my kid's backpack. He got some of my personal stuff in there. Don't look in it. I ain't giving you permission to look in it." So that means they got to look in it. And then they find out, but so we wanted to make sure that the kid didn't get punished, and we wanted to make sure that the language in the bill allowed an opportunity for a kid who did not take the gun to school, who did not take it out, who did not put it in, didn't show any of those things, to not be charged with a felony as if he or she had done so. And they spent a lot of time doing that piece as well. We're certainly all about safety. We've all seen the headlines where there are a number of guns at school, so nobody's saying that that should happen. We just need to make sure that, you know, that I hope that would have been unintended consequences, I'm not so sure, would be addressed ahead of the game. There's also a piece in one of these bills that has to do with the education of our children. And so it's
Yeah.
no longer, the district will no longer be providing its certified teachers from the district. There will be another entity going there. And I think that's a money grab from the district, another way of pulling back those funds from the district. And so there will be no way to determine whether they're actually getting any type of quality education. I know we talked about what the district was doing, making sure that those people were there, that they were not just doing busy work, which is certainly another concern of the children, the students, whether BSO has them or DJJ has them. But there's a thing about a high quality education versus just having someone up. You know, if you're in bed with the charters, you know, if you could be at certain charter schools, where my cousin who dropped out in 8th grade, who's a janitor, can be teaching children. And there've actually been cases in Broward where they went into a charter school and the only adult in there was a janitor. So, I mean, these things seem far-fetched, but they're really concerning, and they're real in our communities. If you recall, the main reason that the school board member fought so hard against promise is because they were required to put the promise infraction, those things that we all laid out, in as civil citations. And so they said, well, we were just screwing these kids up. We're creating records. We don't want to do that. But that seems to be what we're still doing, or what they're still doing. Now, whether Licata knows that or not, that remains to be seen. But we will find out because that's doing the opposite of what they said they were going to do. Granted, he was in support of a continuing. There also in that bill, it talks about future possible diversionary type program. So he threw in a lot of word salad to make sure that those children are placed in the hands of law enforcement rather than given the resources that they need. Many of these children, and the data will reflect, are special needs children with diagnosed behavioral issues. And they will not be addressed if they're, you know, punished, arrested, pushed out, and then they're out on the streets. And, you know, that never leads to good situations as well. So these were none of these juvenile justice bills were any good for our community, and they've actually taken us in the wrong directions. But the sponsors knew, and the supermajority was all in. There were just some were just went as is. There was a couple that were debated, but they got exactly what they were seeking in this whole piece. It seems as though everything you described, Judge, when you went to your first conference, chair's conference, is what was included in this bill, to make sure that those issues were dealt with in a way that does not work best for the children in our estimation. But that's where we are with the bills as far as that are happening in implementation. Others will be waiting for the signing and see what the hoopla is when they have the press conference for the signing of those. I do know there are several entities who are lobbying for a veto of 184.
Yes,
That
Senate Bill 184.
that will affect children as well, i.e., you know, the issue that we had with DeLuca and law enforcement. So none of those things are going to be good for the children in our community. But that's where I am, Judge. Thank you.
Right. Any questions of the secretary or myself regarding this legislation? And look, I was a little pained today because when I started reading the legislation last night, I had taken some NyQuil. I'm battling a cold that's been with me for almost a week, and so I got irritable. But you know, some things don't make sense whether you took NyQuil or you just read it again in the morning twice. So, you know, children are valuable resources, and be, you know, since under, you know, certain politics, you can quote Bible. Well, the Bible says that children are an inheritance from God. Okay, an inheritance means it's of value, and it's passed down. And so I think all of us, whether you have small children, adult children, whether you never mothered or fathered a child, you still have to look at children as valuable resources. They perpetuate our culture, they perpetuate our civilization. So that's why we're supposed to have these boards, not just boards in name only, not just boards so that people can pad their resumes, but boards that can really do some good work for the children. So having said that, how many children do we have in the Broward County Jail? Paul Ryan, to be exact.
Right now, juveniles, we have 13 males. They're housed at the Paul Ryan facility. We had the family night on March 6th. We haven't had no disciplinary reports written for the month of March. That's a good thing. No incident reports for the month of March as well. But they're all housed at the Paul Ryan facility at this time.
And no females, no juvenile
females at all. No females. All males.
Demographics, please.
Yeah, Mr. Walters would like to know the breakdown. How many black males, how many white males, how many Hispanic or other male?
All right. 1, 2, 3, 6. 10 black males, 3 Hispanic males.
Anything else, Mr. Walters?
Put it go to the order when you get there, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right. Mr. Bush, can you give me the breakdown of what I've got in the detention center?
Madam Chair, I can only give you what I got from just what we have so far. Because all of that information is in our system, but I do have a roster from our detention center. All I can give you is male and female. Right now, we have a total of 47 youth in detention as of this morning, 43 males and 4 females. It does not break down whether they're white, black, Hispanic, or other anything like that. So.
I tell you, we got to come up with alternative systems, because when we become so dependent on technology, and this happens to technology, and you know, y'all always got to remember, and when I was a prosecutor, I always thought in terms of the bad guys are always 3 steps ahead, and we're always playing catch up. We react. Okay, and so we've got to get out of that reactionary and start thinking prospectively, as Assistant Chief London did. I mean, as Colonel Holmes did, thinking prospectively that next month when Mr. Weeks says, you know, you had a missed opportunity, he's already thought in advance. You know, we didn't arrest because, you know, it didn't fire any shots. So we really are going to have to get ahead of this technology. or come up with simpler ways to notify this. Notify us of the breakdown of demographics. We become too dependent on technology. All right, so that's 47 people. Any update on when we're getting a new facility? Mr. Bush, do they communicate that with you?
No, I haven't heard anything in reference to that.
Okay, Madam Secretary, any word on that, or Ms. Phillips?
No update as of yet. We haven't heard anything. So
Yeah.
we will be following back up with it though, because I'm not sure what is going on. We just knew that, it was appropriation was granted, but it also can be vetoed. So I haven't heard that it was vetoed, but I haven't heard what's happening.
Yeah, and I spoke to the minority leader of the House and also our senator, and they are checking, but they've not heard anything either.
I can just see now that my schedule is going to be even more packed when I get the call from Miss Ellison saying, "Oh, don't you got to look into this, look into that?" Okay. All right. We are going to follow the agenda. We're doing very, very well. We've done the legislative update. Mr. Bush, any Department of Juvenile Justice and Community Intervention updates? I know I said written only, but anything that you know about that's coming down the pipe that the people in the cab and the people in the audience need to know about?
Madam Chair, not at this moment. I think we're just trying to, I think all of the focus now is just trying to get this system back up and running because, that is our lifeline. So as of right now, that's what the concentration is. As always, we're still trying to do our business here in Circuit 17, whether the system is down or not. So we're still, making contacts, referring kids to services, checking on families and all of that good stuff. So
okay. The old-fashioned way.
The old-fashioned way, yes, ma'am.
Index cards with numbers.
The old-fashioned way. Notebook, paper, all that. Pens.
All right. Anything that's good for the order of this cab?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Walters.
I just want you to know that you were not the only person who thanked their mother for paddling them. I did many times, and it wasn't being facetious because I really meant it. I am one of the very few people who never had a marijuana cigarette or any of them other funny drugs, or I never had handcuffs on, and I know we got police officers sitting up there on the there, so don't come get me because I'm saying this. But I've never had any of these things, and I thank my mother for it because she was strict. She was the only mom in the neighborhood, but if we did something out at Sunland Park at that time and had to run 1.5 miles home, when we got there, she was standing in the door waiting on us, and we didn't have no telephone, no fax machine, no nothing. But the word would get home before we got home. So you wasn't the only one. And you talked about our children, I guess, being entitled to the inheritance for which they will receive. And that is whether they wish to or not. So when
let me interrupt it. I said the Bible says that children are an inheritance from the Lord.
Yes, and other than those things that we inherit from the Lord, we're going to inherit some of it from our communities, and we're going to inherit some of it from home, and we as adults, people who supposedly care about our young folk, is going to have to stay very busy. We have trouble spending 20, 25 minutes with our youth, but the dope man will spend all night with them. And so we got to be careful of that as well. And so what they inherit, my thing is, if we don't take care of them now, they are not going to take care of us later. It's just the way it goes. And you talked about the detention versus and incarceration. But let me say this: there's a lot of money involved in those two things. Until we get the money out of it, it will always be. The last time I checked, the detention in the prison and the jails took up 28% of the Florida economy. They're not going to let that go. And my thing is, I don't really, I'm not asking them to let it go. I'm just asking them to share it with everybody, if that makes sense to you. And again, I want to thank you and Madam Secretary for being such a good mentors for me.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Walters. Well, Madam Secretary, I think I've covered the agenda. Anything else that you can think of? I'm going to let you have the parting words before I entertain a motion to adjourn. Again, thank you for getting me involved with the Circuit 17 Advisory Board.
No, just that there are a number of organizations that have scholarship opportunities for graduating seniors. And I think both chapters of Omega Psi Phi, I think
Delta Sigma Theta.
Delta Sigma Theta, several chapters. I know that I believe FAMU, Broward Alumni Association. I saw some others that were that are available. I believe Chief London, the Black Policemen's Association also has some. We will send those out to everyone. So I know the time is close on several of those, but make sure that the kids apply and have an opportunity, because I don't know if y'all seen the price of books or everything lately. Those things will add up, and so they were, and not all of them are for the A kids, and some of the other ones are for some children who are not has as high a GPA, but they have work and they've been lifing, and so there's opportunity there as well. So we want to make sure that any of the activities that are going on, any programs, any youth summits, any scholarship opportunities are happening, and we want to get the information so as many kids have an opportunity to apply and participate as well. And that is all that I have, Madam Chair.
All right, Ms. Mashala, when did I miss, or has it already taken place, the sealing and expunging workshop?
We had our last one in February, and I think the next one is coming up in May, Madam Chair.
Okay, so if you'll send out those notes, send it to the chair. That's going to be Mr. Weeks, and that way, if it gets posted, that I'll know and I can disseminate it in the community. I appreciate that. Anybody else doing anything for the good and the order of the community? BSO is spending money in Deerfield. I love it.
Yep, we are.
All right.
Putting the money to good use. So,
Assistant Chief, don't breathe easy. I'm gonna be knocking on your door. I'm coming to see you. I got something in mind for you all to do. Law enforcement, it's more than just handcuffing people and taking them to jail. It's interacting. That's all part of that community-based policing that we embraced in the 80s and the 90s, and then we kind of got away from it. So y'all got all that forfeiture money. I'm coming for it.
I'll give you Chief London's cell. He just loves it so much when you call him at home and he's minding his own business, not even working. Don't mind the attitude when he calls. Just start talking.
Because I'm about
just start talking. He does.
I'm going to miss you all. As Karen Burnett would say, I'm so glad we had this time together, just to have a laugh or sing a song. Seems like we just had started, and before you know it, comes the time we have to say so long. All right, Cousin Dave, what do you got to say?
Madam Chair, just for the board, the Broward County Sheriff's Office, we're having a LETF workshop on April 24th from 2 to 4 p.m. at the African Research Library, okay? Any 501c3 organizations that are interested in receiving some LETF funds from the Sheriff's Office, please come to this workshop. It's a great opportunity for an organization to get some funding. We have it once a year, and it's April 24th from 2 to 4 p.m. at the African Research Library. So pass the word. Anyone that you know that's interested in some LETF monies.
Do you have a flyer out on that, or
Yes,
it's just?
Yes, I have it. I have
Can you
it.
email that to me? I know
Yep.
some 501c3s.
Okay, I will send it to you right now, as a matter of fact.
Thank you. Anything that the 17th is doing, Judge Robolo? All right.
No, Judge.
All right.
Business as usual.
Okay. Ms. Gaynor, anything the county doing that I need to know about? I'm gonna show up at these places. Thank you, Colonel Holmes. I'm showing up.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Community-Based Connection will be doing a fatherhood event on April 27th in the community as our Adam Family Challenge Day. So the Qs are barbecuing and everybody will be coming out. We have some great sponsors. There will be some vendors there from the community to provide more resources. And as well as we'll have some bounce houses and some activities for the children and the fathers and their significant others. And also the month of June, we'll have a week full of fatherhood event that'll be happening. So please follow us on our social media platform and our website, communitybasedconnections.com, and Community-Based Connection for the social media to keep up with all our upcoming events. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, everybody, Ella, PD's office doing anything?
Speaking everywhere all the time. So if y'all need Mr. Weeks to come, he's like, let me know. If the kids can't come there, come to the court, go to courthouse, he'll come to them. He does deliver his services, so he'll be glad to come out and speak to the kids.
Right. We have our youth summer justice program that if we haven't sent it out, we can also put it in, and it gets full pretty quickly, but I'll also make sure we send that information if we haven't.
And if you'll make sure you email me a copy, because I put Mr. Bush probably not going to send me an email or nothing.
Mr. Bush, you got to get on the ball. You got to start.
I'll have to hear it through the grapevine.
Mr. Bush says, "Is this meeting over with? I thought y'all were leaving."
hey, look, I got to figure out what I'm doing, so I'm leaning on something else.
You'll be fine, Mr. Bush. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. All right. Anything else? Thank you all. I've had fun with you all, but it's time to go. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at this time.
Motion to adjourn.
And is there a second?
Second.
Second from the Cowboy Nation.
Don't need
You got
one.
your ring
They
on Monday.
always adjourned.
3 minutes and 13 seconds of ring. Look at that. Look at y'all. They speaking up and getting all jiggy with it and everything. Say hello to Jerry for me. We're adjourned. Bye.
All right. Have a good
Have a
evening.
good evening.